Okay, proportion. Well, before you even begin looking at this particular video, have a look at my video on ratio first, because proportion depends a lot on ratio. So I'm going to jump right in here and put a ratio down. I'm going to start with the same 2 to 3 ratio as I did in my ratio video. And I'm going to represent this 2 to 3 as children in a class again, 2 boys to 3 girls. And I'm going to draw my boys and girls. So here are my boys, my 2 boys, and let's have a different color for the girls. So these are my 3 girls here. Okay, having a ratio of 2 to 3, well, it tells us a little bit about what we've got. If you look here, you're going to notice that I've got 5 children, because the boys and the girls all count together to make children. So altogether there are 5 children here. And if you look at my ratio of 2 to 3, if you add it up, you get 5. Now if I ask you what fraction of the amount of children are boys, you're going to look at the 2 boys and say, well, there are 2 boys out of 5 children altogether. And if I asked you the same about the girls, you're going to say that there are 3 girls out of 5 children altogether. What you have just made is a proportion of the amount of children that are there. So this 2/5 actually represents 2/5 of the children, all the children being boys, and 3/5 of them being girls. Now, as a trick of a question, let's keep the same ratio. So we have a ratio of 2 to 3, and in this particular classroom we have together 30 children. And you might be asked the question, how many of those children are boys and how many of those children are girls? Well, because you know that the ratio is 2 to 3, with a quick bit of thinking, you can change your ratio into proportion and basically say, well, okay, for a ratio of 2 to 3, 2/5 are boys and 3/5 of the children are girls. And we got that from looking at the ratio, adding the 2 numbers up, getting the 5 to know that we're counting out of 5 children. 2/5 are boys and 3/5 are girls. Now we've got 30 children to sort out. So we want to know how many of them are boys. Well, with a quick bit of maths, if I know 2/5 are boys, there is nothing stopping me from finding 2/5 of 30. Once we have that, now this is going to be taking us into a little bit of arithmetic here. If you remember how to multiply a whole number by a fraction, there are various ways people use. I will quickly use the most common way that children like to see. 30 divided by 5, which gives us 6. When we get our answer, we times it by the numerator, that numerator 2, and so we know that 12 of the children are boys. To find the amount of girls, we will not go through the long process of finding 3/5 of 30, because if we know how many boys there are, it's a very simple matter now. Of 30, take away the boys, because once the boys have been taken away, the girls are what you're going to have left, which are 18 girls. And that's as straightforward as it is where that is concerned. Sometimes these questions can become a bit tricky, like for example using the same sort of ratio. So we have a 2 to 3 ratio, and they might say that in this particular class, well, we have, oh, I don't know, 24 boys, keeping the same thing where we got 2 boys to 3 girls. Okay, so they might say we have 24 boys, and then they might ask the question of how many girls are there, or how many children are in the class. Well, if I know I've got 24 boys and it's a 2 to 3 ratio, I think the simplest way is to turn the ratio into an unknown, like from what we don't have. So for example, I would take my 2 to 3 and I will say that it's the same as 24 to something, and by quick looking at it here, the 2 was multiplied by 12 to give me 24, so I will just multiply my 3 by 12 as well, thereby giving me 36. And from that I can just do a quick bit of adding to say that the total number of children in the class would be my 24 plus my 36, which is going to give me 60 children. And that's as simple as it is. So I hope this was very helpful to you. I hope that you're able to deal with your ratio questions and your proportion questions just by having a look at these. Have a go at some questions and see how well you get on with them.